The DeWalt DW735 is one of the most frequently used tools in my shop, as I use it to prep virtually every board that goes into a project. Whether you have a thickness planer or you're thinking about adding one, this video was made with you in mind. It was time for some maintenance on this machine. The blades were getting dull and had a small nick. I had already flipped them around some months ago, so they would need to be replaced this time around. In this video, I'll show you how to safely change the blades and give the planer a thorough cleaning. Make sure to watch until the end to see my tips on preventing snipe and planing stock down to as thin as 1/8 inch thick. So this video is going to be about the thickness planer, the one I have in particular, the DeWalt thickness planer. I'm not going to debate the pluses and minuses of this versus other thickness planers. Happens to be the one I have, so it's the one I'm going to show you. Anyway, let's take a look at the thickness planer. And I'm going to start with changing the blades because this one needs a blade change. You may have noticed that the thickness planer is a little dusty. Some people would thoroughly clean up the machine before they shot any video, but that seemed pointless to me. This is a woodworking shop, and woodworking produces sawdust. I do clean up occasionally, and I'll clean up this machine as part of the maintenance I'll perform today. If a little bit of sawdust offends you, you're watching the wrong channel. One of the key features of this DeWalt thickness planer is the smart storage of the main maintenance tool. It's not just included, but conveniently placed right in the top of the machine. This means you won't ever have to search for the tool you need to take the top off the machine to change blades, as long as you remember to place it back after use. 4 Torx screws are holding the top onto the machine. They are easy to loosen with the included tool and come loose, but not out, so you don't have to worry about losing them. I removed the top and set it aside on my workbench. Before proceeding any further, remove the power cord if you haven't done so already. The first step on the inside is to remove the 3 bolts holding down the cover over the blade section. They're long and have a thumb screw at the top, so no tool is needed. The cover this holds down collects sawdust thrown up by the cutter blades, and at the left side, as you look at it from the infeed table, is a tube that feeds the sawdust to the exhaust port. If you are considering buying a thickness planer, please note that dust collection is a must for this machine. It produces a prodigious amount of sawdust. That's the part I was talking about. I'm on the subject of dust collection. I should mention a helpful accessory. My power cords for the planer and dust collector are both plugged into a switch that is, in turn, plugged into an outlet. When I turn on the planer, the dust collector is automatically powered on as well. When I shut off the planer, power continues to the dust collector for several seconds before it is shut down. This gives the dust collector time to clear sawdust from the hose before it stops. There are 3 blades in this machine, and the covers are held down with screws that use the same Torx tool to remove as the machine's top. Each cover has several screws, so I remove them and carefully set them aside to the right of the machine. The blades have 2 edges, so flip the first around and use the other edge once the first is worn. I've already done that with this set of blades, so I will replace them with the new set I have on hand. 5 or 6 of these screws were stubborn, and I could not remove them with the tool that came with the machine. I had that problem when I flipped the blade several months ago, and at that time I purchased a set of Torx attachments for my socket wrench. The extender gave me added height and more room to maneuver, and the handle produced the extra torque I needed to get the recalcitrant screws out. In addition to the Torx driver on this tool, a couple of powerful magnets are built into the top. After I remove the cover, I use the magnetic part of the tool to lift the blade out of place. Even though the blade is somewhat dull, it is still more than sharp enough to give a nasty cut. I carefully set it aside, then cleaned up the part that the blade was attached to. If you ever use the machine to plane softwood, this part can accumulate sawdust and even some pitch and other residue. I used a soft cloth to clean the part, then rotated the blade holder and performed the same maintenance on the other 2 surfaces. After removing all 3 blades and cleaning the blade holder, I used my air compressor with a nozzle attachment to blow the loose sawdust from the interior. I have a ceiling-mounted air cleaner, and I made sure it was on for this step, as well as the rest of the afternoon, to catch as much of the now airborne sawdust as possible. Next, I use the magnetic side of the tool to insert a new blade into place. There are two little posts that the blade slips over to orient it correctly. These posts are slightly elongated so the blade can be moved slightly from side to side. If you ever find yourself with a nick in the blades, these may save you from having to replace the blade. Remove the cover and slightly slide one or two of the three blades. If you're lucky, the nick will now be in a different spot on each blade and will no longer appear as a scratch on the finished piece. I put the blade in place, added the cover over it, then inserted the screws. I finger tightened them to begin with, then went back and snug them down with the Torx tool. There's no need to overdo this, or you'll have trouble removing the screws when it's time to flip or replace the blade. As long as I'm in maintenance mood this afternoon, I'll continue with a couple of other tasks that need to be done occasionally. I raised the cutter head several inches to give room to work, then brought over a level to use as a straight edge because the infeed and outfeed tables need adjustment. If those get out of alignment, this can cause sniping at the end of the board, which can be frustrating and wasteful of material. The little peg on the infeed side of the tool itself is not adjustable. It just pushes in and out and provides a pivot point for the infeed table to attach. For some odd reason, DeWalt didn't use the Torx head screws for this part of the machine, and I had to fetch a set of Allen wrenches for that. I found the correct size, then loosened the bolt on the infeed table. That allowed me to move the table into alignment with the table of the machine before tightening it once again. Then I did the same on the left side of the infeed table and both sides of the outfeed table. While the planer was cranked up so high, I thought I'd perform one more maintenance task. I retrieved the can of paste wax I use for my machine beds, found a clean cloth, and then applied wax to all the table surfaces. It doesn't take a lot of wax, and you need to rub it around and then remove the excess. Be careful on the inside, as those sharp blades are exposed, not too far above your hand. While we're talking about maintenance and lubrication, another area to consider is these posts that the cutter head rides on to move up and down. You need to use a dry lube on parts like this so they don't attract sawdust. You don't want to use something like WD-40 because that will mix with the sawdust and cause problems. I have a spray can of silicone lubricant, which was recommended for my CNC machine, so I know it will be appropriate for the thickness planer. I sprayed a little on each of the 4 poles. Now I'll put all that work to the test. I have a piece of 4-quarter poplar here that I measured as 13/16 thick. I could leave it at that thickness, but by running it through the planer twice and taking 1/32 off with each pass, I'll have a surface that needs little to no sanding, and it would be 3/4 thick. I plugged the machine back in and ran the board through the planer. You'll have to take my word for it, but the difference since the blade change was noticeable. I could also tell that the board was pulled through more easily by the feed rollers, so waxing the table was worthwhile as well. Now that I'm ready to start planing again, I thought I'd pass on some tips that I've picked up over the years. The first is to make shallow passes. With this particular machine, turning the crank one full 360-degree turn increases the depth by 1/16 of an inch. I never take off that much material at a time. If you take too deep a cut, you can hear the motor straining, and you're less likely to get a smooth cut and likely to chip rather than slice the wood. So take 1/32 or less off at a time. If you want to see how you're progressing and check to make sure there are no high and low spots on the board, take a pencil and make some squiggly lines across the surface. After you run the board through the planer, the pencil marks should be gone. If not, run the board through again until all the marks are gone. With some boards, grain direction can become a factor in getting smooth cuts. Sometimes grain direction is obvious, so you should feed that piece into the planer with the direction the grain is flowing. At other times, the direction is not obvious, so all you can do is use your judgment for the first pass. If the cut is smooth, you made the right call. If not, try another light pass in the other direction and see if you get better results that way. I've found through experience that some species of wood plane easier and smoother than others. I can usually get excellent results from oak and poplar, 2 woods I use often, but I often experience tear out with maple or purple art. With these woods, grain direction and light passes are absolutely critical factors in obtaining good results. If you make cutting boards, it's okay to run edge grain through the planer, but not end grain. Like it or not, you'll have to resort to sanding to complete end grain cutting boards. If you've adjusted your infeed and outfeed tables, but you're still having a problem with snipe, here's a tip that might help. One solution is to cut the board a little longer than needed, then trim the end with the snipe off after you're done planing. A variation on this is to run a piece of scrap wood behind the board you want to use. Run your piece through the planer, push the scrap piece through directly behind it. The snipe will only be on the scrap piece. The first way will likely waste less material, and to do it the second way, you will need a scrap piece that is the same thickness as your workpiece at the beginning. I'll finish this video with a thickness planing tip. Because I make a lot of toys, I frequently need thinner stock. I can purchase half-inch stock locally, but if I need anything thinner, I need to resaw. I can plane boards down to 1/4 thick, but I found that anything thinner than that sometimes breaks up. Not only does it ruin the stock, it could do some damage to the planer. I happen to need some 1/8 stock for a project, so I thought I'd show you how I prepare something this thin. I took some 1/4 inch thick oak left over from another project and attached it to a plywood backer using double-sided tape. I used calipers to measure the thickness of the two taped together, and it showed exactly 1.00 inches. Since the plywood was 0.75 and the oak 0.25, that was the measurement I expected. Now I want the oak to end up at 0.125 inches, so I'll run this through the planer, taking a few thousandths off at a time until I have a final thickness of 0.875. Then I'll remove the oak from the plywood and be left with the 0.125 thickness I want. And you thought you'd never have to do math again. I covered a lot in this video, and I hope you picked up some useful tips. I have a lot of money invested in my tools, and I've learned over the years that a little bit of periodic preventive maintenance pays off. Let me know in the comments if this video is helpful, and please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Those small gestures on your part make a great deal of difference on my end.